If you don't have dagger, use the base ward crit instead. The boss won't always do the same thing in the same order and the same amount of times, which means sometimes it will be easier and sometimes it will be a bit harder, which is fine since it will generally be the same stuff. When you enter the dialogue, make sure to keep a distance so when the boss flash steps towards us, he will automatically block as soon as we use our crit. There will also be instances where he just doesn't block. For whatever reason, he doesn't block and you just hit him. If this happens, just run away because there's a very high chance that he will use a move and he simply will fight back, which will be a massive pain to deal with. And if you're too far away or too close, it could trigger him using a move instead of him using his flash step. Our goal is to find him flash stepping towards us so that we know that we can crit him for sure to guard break him without any issues whatsoever. While these things aren't really a must-have, they are certainly helpful. And this is good ping, an online stopwatch loop, which I will have linked in the description below. Jeez, that was hard to say. And the reason why you need this loop is because of the Ice Bankai's passive. Basically, you need to know when he will do his passive so you don't absolutely get combo womboed man with the 1-2-3s. And this will tell you repeatedly, time and time again, when the Bankai's passive will happen and it will beep. And that's a certain beeping sound you can hear in my showcase video. The pass will trigger roughly around 25 seconds. When the cylinder light is fading away is when we start the timer. Around 1 to 2 seconds before that is when we set the time. And this is simply to give reaction time, knowing, okay, I need to get the hell out of here, and I know roughly this is when he will do his passive. If you fuck it up a bit, it will always get fucked up in the loop, since these seconds will add on, which is a bit of a pain for sure. You don't need to be perfect, but try to make it as good as possible would be my recommendation. If you are able to have like another screen or device where you can see it, like meanwhile how many seconds there are left, that would also be quite helpful. Just to know, okay, this is when it'll happen. It'll happen very soon. I need to be prepared. And when timer hits, that's when we get the fuck out of it. When you guard break the boss but notice that the timer will soon go off, just run away. That little extra damage is not worth getting absolutely railed for. These are just nice things to have. You can still beat the boss just fine even if you don't have it, but they do help, and ping just makes it easier to crit. So make sure to be in a good server. Kendo moves. There's 2 criteria that we are mainly looking for, and those are your escape moves and your damage moves, which in this case will be flowing petals and the flower passage. Flowing petals will be your primary move to get away with, simply because you travel quite quickly in a short amount of time, and even if you do get hit, you still travel the same distance, which is why it's so good. Flower passage, on the other hand, is worse in the sense that it doesn't travel as quickly and it is cancelable by you just getting hit. So I would recommend to use it either when you don't have flowing petals available, or you just want to save flowing petals in case you get in like deep trouble. Now you will have your damage moves. These will primarily be Rise and Swallow or Bisection. Both of them are quite good in the sense that, you know, Rise and Swallow knocks the enemy back and you just create some distance between yourself. And Bisection in the sense that you don't have to be that close at all. Now these are moves I wouldn't recommend, and that would be Vertical Down and Split Gate. The reason why I wouldn't recommend Vertical Down and Split Gate, it is very hard to land, and in the few instances that you do land it, you are likely to get punished heavily by him absolutely destroying you with Megalodons, you know. And in the few instances that you manage to do it, you will get absolutely destroyed. So it's just not worth the risk, simply because the boss is a parry demon and will just parry you instantly. Even if you do split gaze first and then, you know, use vertical down to try to guard break him, that will not work. Now there will be a case where it might actually work. Like for most cases, landing vertical down a split gaze just won't work, but in the few instances that it does, then it will just give the boss enough time to use a move after you land a hit, which is absolutely stupid because I've actually tried it a lot. If I chose to record all of them, my computer would just simply die, which is why I did not do it at all. Oh yeah, I did forget to mention, but you can also use like overpowering slash to give you that bit of hype armor. I personally wouldn't recommend it. I personally didn't use it simply because I kind of forgot. I just simply forgot to use it. It's good in the sense that you get hype armor, but you still take damage. You like, you know, you still die, anyway, but hey man, if you really need it, then you can use it. So now we'll talk about skill boxes. You'll have 3 skill box moves with kendo. There's either Sonata Flow, Eviscerate, or Crystal Relief. All of these are very good and should definitely be used. The thing is with Sonata Flow is that it can combo extend and it's easy to hit and it does some decent damage. You do also get hype armor / iframes after you've hit the move. The boss should not be able to move, although sometimes he is able to move, which is quite unfortunate. But even then you should be able to stay still with hype armor and be just fine. Eviscerate is a good damaging move. It does more damage. It's just an alternative to Crescent Relief in this case as a combo ender. Crescent Relief does some decent damage and it is a combo ender as well. The difference is to Eviscerate, however, is that you knock the boss away and it could actually buy you time, which is very useful. And it is the only move that stacks with Vizard, that becomes stronger in Vizard out of these 3 skill boxes. Your weapon will play a very big role because it determines what kind of crit your boss will use against you. There's ways to make this easier for yourself and there's also ways to make this harder for yourself. If you want it to be a bit harder or you just happen to have them, Longsword and Odachi will definitely by far without a single doubt be the hardest ones to fight against in Bankai, simply because Longsword has a stupid hyper armor crit which is a pain in the ass, and Odachi slows you away which makes it very hard to be able to move in that time frame. Now that itself isn't too bad in the sense that, well, it's just one move, right? But it's another thing that you have to worry about. That is why it's an issue. So we want to take away as many factors to the fight as possible to make it as easy for ourselves as possible. Now we have a neutral, which is actually the dagger crit, and the reason why the dagger crit is actually kind of good is because it has a longer range than the base sword katana and it has the same time to register as the base sword katana, which means they basically activate on the same time. And this makes it so the boss will actually get guard broken and not perfect parry the move, because that is a pain. And it has a longer range and you can use your Shikai moves as well, which will be covered in the next topic. And also you can turn away if things go bad. If you, for example, accidentally R and crit when there's too much of a distance, you can turn away and flash step and you'll be just fine. Also, it's easier for the boss to trigger his block when using your crit since it's a further distance, which means there'll be a bigger chance that he'll block instead of just tanking the hit, which it is an annoying thing that sometimes happens. Well, there'll be more of a chance of him just blocking so you can guard break him. And also the reason why we want to use dagger, now we want to roll for twin blade, and you might wonder why the hell would we ever want to roll for such a horrible weapon. And the reason why is because in Bankai the twin blade is a counter, which makes it easier. It generally does make it easier. It's still hard, the Bankai fight is still hard with or without twin blade, but it makes it easier. And that's the thing with all the Shikai weapons really, depending on what kind of weapon you have, it'll still be hard, but it just basically is a counter. And the boss is programmed so when you hold F for a very long time, it will eventually use its counter, and so then you have enough time to flash step away. And this is also something that will be quite annoying if you have Longsword and Odachi and even daggers, since daggers crits in Bankai goes through block and the dagger Bankai crit makes you stuck there for a while. Now, the thing that are good with Vizards are obviously the Vizard buffs, that is speed, reality regen, health regen, 10% defense and 10% strength increase. And also, if you have true Vizard, the main thing there is it lasts more than double the time and you get 3 out of 5 buffs instead of just 1 buff, which is just helpful. Again, it just helps. Now, let's actually go over the moves that are actually kind of important with Vizard, and that is mainly Rising Swallow and Bisection for the ragdolling effect, which means that the enemy is stuck there for a bit, unable to do anything, which means that now both of them are good combo extenders into literally any move really. And if you don't have a move, or you perhaps don't have Ryatsu, or for whatever reason you don't want to use a move, then fine, you can just get more time. And Crystal Relief because it knocks further away, so it's even better in Vizard. Again, Vizard is not something yet that you do need at all. You don't need it, but it does make it easier now. And now let's cover the Shikai skills. So we have 3 moves, and all 3 of them will actually be very useful in their own different cases. Ice Claw can be used instead of any combo enders, and what it does is it freezes the boss up a bit for a very short amount of time. It's just another move in case you don't have anything else to use. I wouldn't personally recommend to use it too much, but perhaps if you need a bit more time, that little extra time that the boss gets frozen for, then go ahead. Shurikens will actually be very useful because for whatever reason the boss does not block the projectiles, which means they will hit, and he will will get frozen. If he does block the projectile, despite what I said, in my run I didn't have him block any times. I did not have him countered even, but that is actually entirely possible. So if he does block it, or if he does counter it, stop using it. The shurikens can be used as a projectile instead of ice claw, kind of like bisection in the sense that you can keep a bit of a distance, and when you use it after you've guard broken the boss, he gets frozen for a bit, which means you can buy more time. Essentially it's a better way than using bisection. And now your counter. This skill should almost never be used. It is when the boss will guaranteedly hit you with a skill. There's two scenarios where it should be used, such as shurikens, which will follow you so you will get hit, and megalodon, which will also guaranteedly hit you. Now do be careful, since you can easily be cancelled. Use it when you see that there's enough room. In my clip, I waited a little bit before I actually used it. Make sure you guaranteedly know when it will happen so you can actually counter it.